OG Rose here, and today we're going to be talking about a paper called Joy to the World. It's an econ paper, and it's responding a lot to the work of an economist named Hermann Minsky. What Minsky argued is that there is an inevitable instability to capitalism, and so consequently, Austrian economics was incomplete. He was what would be called a neo-Keynesianist, and what he argued is that during the good times of capitalism, when there's stability and there's profit and the market is strong, that people tend to over leverage. They tend to get into debt. They tend to overspend. They don't tend to think about the future very much. And so consequently, bubbles developed, and those bubbles pop, and they burst. And then when things burst, people might stop over leveraging, and they might stop overspending and start getting their game together, and the economy can recover. But in being a neo Keynesian, he also was kind of skeptical of this Austrian narrative that when the economy comes down, things are cheap. People can buy up cheap goods, and money can switch hands from the rich who weren't preparing for tomorrow to the swifty entrepreneurs who will then have an opportunity space by which to climb the ladder and to make a profit. For Minsky, as Keynes talked about, is that as the economy busts, savings get dried up. There's a line in the general theory where Keynes says something like, "There's no food left in the trough," so people don't have the money to take advantage of a weakening economy, and so consequently the depressions are complete. They don't recover on their own, and so Minsky, in believing that that capitalism had this instability that was part of it, and thus had a business cycle, for him it was only a matter of time before it went too far, and the business cycle exploded and the system failed. So he thought that you need a lot of state involvement. And so the paper wants to ask the question of how can we figure out when capitalism is going through a boom, or when it's strong, that it's actually strong and not just apparently strong, that the prosperity that's going on is not simply a drug high. Would be sort of the metaphor that Austrians would ask. And the paper argues that what we need to be able to do is somehow figure out if the majority of people in an economy are intrinsically motivated as opposed to extrinsically motivated. An extrinsically motivated person is someone who does a task for a goal, for a certain purpose. So, for example, a mouse runs a maze for a block of cheese. Where an intrinsically motivated person is someone who, like, is a mouse that runs a maze because the mouse likes running. Whether or not there's cheese at the end is inconsequential because the mouse finds joy in the act of running itself. And so if the majority of people in an economy are extrinsically motivated, then that means they were primarily working and doing their jobs in order to achieve a goal. Well, if the economy is strong, or you reach this period of stability or profitability that we were talking about in the business cycle, then those people are not going to work as hard, or that would only be logical. They may their productivity may fall, and they may in fact not contribute to the economy as much as they need to. But if in this period of stability, there's debts are being accumulated, the system is becoming credit heavy, then it's very, very important for those people to maintain the same level of productivity. But having achieved the reason for their productivity, it's likely that they're going to slack off. It's only rational. So that would mean that it's probably what Minsky talks about is probably true, that the economy is going to spiral downward eventually. However, if the majority of people in the economy are intrinsically motivated, then the very fact that the economy is prosperous will not result in people working less. They'll work just as much because they enjoy working for working's sake. They won't. The act of working is the goal that they want, and the fact that the economy is stronger now, they have more money to buy what they want to buy or to get different goods and services will be nice. It's not that these people won't like that, but it will be a secondary concern. So, in order for the economy to avoid these Minskian cycles, the majority of people need to be intrinsically motivated. But how do you determine if the majority of people are intrinsically motivated? And the paper wants to argue that a way you can do that is by determining how much joy is in the economy, and which is distinct from happiness, because happiness is an emotional state resulting from circumstance, while joy is a satisfaction with life that is not contingent upon circumstance. It is non-contingent. And so if the majority of people in your society are joyful, if they have a purpose, they therefore have hope, they therefore have drive, then it is possible and likely that the system will not fall into destabilization, will not collapse during times of stability, that the inherent destabilization Minsky talks about is not the case. But how do we determine if the majority of people are joyful? Well, maybe job satisfaction, maybe levels of suicide and depression, maybe family life. That's a very good question. There might be ways to do it. If you ask the average person, would you go to work even if you weren't paid for it? If most people would say yes, then that might be an indication that there's a lot of joy in the system. And certainly there's some work to do, but the point of the paper is to argue that determining how much joy is in a society will help us determine how actually stable the economy is, and how much of the booms are actually backed by real growth as opposed to mere credit that isn't backed by productivity, that won't be backed for productivity for long at least. So anyway, that's a summary of Joy to the World. Thank you for listening, and this is OG Rose, and you'll find a full reading in another link.